on this episode of Small Town Flavor.
They just call me Grizzly. Good bourbon makes great food. What is Kentucky corn water?
So this is the longest, I would guess, constant running commercial business district in America, just about.
That's been untouched by development. He's not giving you the
he's
complete
holding out,
story.
isn't he?
Yeah.
We've got an assortment hand-picked by Jerry, who grew it, pickled it, preserved it. It's hard to believe as peaceful it is out here right now. One of the bloodiest battles in Civil War history was held right here on these hallowed grounds.
I'm Panini Pete, a professional chef with small town roots and a passion for one-of-a-kind places. I'm day tripping down the back roads and main streets of America to prove that small towns are extraordinary destinations, each one rich in history and full of happiness, where people care about people and treat you like one of their own. They celebrate life, tradition, and one-of-a-kind food culture. So join me as we gather all the local ingredients to serve up a big helping of small town flavor.
Yesterday was bright, beautiful and clear. Summer in the breeze, soft upon my skin. I hear it in the trees, I see it in the fields. Rivers running dry, primroses on a hill. And yesterday was bright, we held it in our hand.
They just call me Grizzly. Around here, that's all anybody knows, Grizzly.
How long you been doing this?
20, 30 years. And how old am I now, Mike? 70, yeah. Mike knows, he keeps track of all that. But I've just been fooling with it for years. And we decided that we'd let everybody else enjoy it. So that's what we do.
So what's the secret to happiness in barbecue?
Good bourbon, mainly, and a good wife. She takes care of that. Yeah, she's the head of everything. She's just not here today. What is Kentucky corn water? It's made here in Kentucky at night. It's just clear water, and it makes great food.
Crashing through waves, many miles from here, swallowing the sea, blinded for a moment.
Just outside of Danville is a small town of Perryville. Less than 1,000 people live here. I'm standing in an area right now known as the Cave. This is where it all started for Perryville. Here to learn more about the Cave and the history of Merchants Row, I'm going to meet up with a local, Jerry Houck. Come on out, Jerry, it's time to shoot. Jerry, where you at? Jerry, oh, Jerry's up here. Thought you were in the cave, man.
Come on out of the cave, Pete.
Get me out of here. I heard some creatures or something down there.
Well, there very well could be. I mean,
Could be?
this is kind of the area that started Perryville. Originally, there was a settlement here, and it was a fort, and the cave was kind of centered in the middle of the fort.
So this was used for shelter?
It would have been used for shelter. It was also a spring. It was part of the reason why they decided to settle in this area, because there are several springs here. What would happen is they would farm on the other side of the river or farm outside the fort, and if there was a threat of Indians or something, they could go into the cave and then come back into the safety of the fort.
Well, just a little bit about yourself. You have a catering business here?
I do have a catering business. I kind of am I'm at a loss for figuring out exactly what I want to do, so I just call myself an entrepreneur. I have several businesses in an attempt to try to help not only myself succeed, but help other people that are wanting to get their small businesses started, and Perryville is a great location for that. And
all right, Jerry, tell me a little bit about this building right here.
the Parks family, which is what the house is named after, were a very influential mercantile family that did a lot of the buildings that we'll see on Merchants Row. It was used during the Civil War as one of the quarters for the officers.
So this is a pre-Civil War structure.
It is a pre-Civil War structure built in that 1830, 1820 time frame. The Civil War plays such a an important part of who we are here in Perryville, with the battlefield being so close by. We don't want to lose that, but at the same time realizing that even before the Civil War, there was a society here and there was a community here. And post-Civil War, there was a community that had to deal with the aftermath of that. It was the bloodiest battle in Kentucky.
So this
is Merchants Row.
Merchants Row.
Pre-Civil War. All of these buildings that you see primarily here were all here before the Civil War happened. It was not an area of town that was houses at one point and then transferred or converted over into businesses. These were actually built as businesses.
So this is the longest, I would guess, constant running business, commercial business district in America, just about.
That's been untouched by development. You'll see little snippets of history like the letter boxes. You'll see them all along the building. Back at that time, what would happen is you would take over as the postmaster for a little while, and after a couple of years, the guy down the street would become the postmaster for a little while. Everybody kind of worked together, but the pictures of the way it was before with just the dirt out here and the places to tie your horses up and the dirt streets.
So that's how it started, just
the
a dirt
streets
road.
have changed, but the buildings still remain
From the edge of the street on, nothing's changed. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Let me tell you a little bit about some of the other buildings. The one we're standing in front of now, which is where the produce shop is, this was Dr. Green's pharmacy. And when Green was actually a practicing pharmacist in Kentucky, he was the oldest living pharmacist in Kentucky. This was Dr. Polk's house and his office right beside it. Dr. Polk was actually a doctor during the Civil War.
So Jerry, since we're standing out here in front of Harvesters Press Produce and food is very near and dear to me, and you know somebody that works here, right? You got connections here?
I do.
This is your spot, right?
This is my
Can we
shop.
go inside and look around?
Come on in.
Show me all there is to see. Wow, what a great little shop.
So welcome to Harvesters.
Thank you.
This is my shop. I'm a restaurateur as well. I love food. I love to grow food. I love to cook food, love to eat food. This is stuff all grown at my farm.
At your farm, not just a local farm, but
well,
your
there are
local
some
farm.
pieces now that I've started to do my stuff in here. We've had a couple other farmers that have also wanted to join. We stipulate that we want it to be organic. We want it to be as pesticide-free as possible, and we want it to be local. A lot of people that are used to buying tomatoes at the grocery store, the pretty, the glossy,
perfect
the ones that'll slice real well to go on your ham sandwich, tend to look at these, you know, and curl their nose just a little bit. But if you actually take the time to really work with the tomato to slice it and get it on there, you will not taste a better tomato.
I'm on board there. Believe me, those things it's a whole nother flavor.
Yeah.
It's a real tomato. It's what they're supposed to taste like. So what do you do with the extra tomatoes?
So we send
We've
them
got other
over to the
section
other
over
side
here.
of the store. If it gets to the point that we haven't sold it on that side, then what we do is we take it back to my kitchen and we process it.
And the good thing is you're using old technology to save this.
Right.
You know, the method of preservation. We don't waste food.
This
You
is the
reuse
way
it.
they would have done it back in when Perryville was first
So this is
settled
very
here.
close to the kind of products that you
Absolutely.
would see 100, 200 years
You would
ago
think
here.
they would have preserved it in some way because that's how they would have made it through the winter.
Maybe I might have to get a chance to sample some of this stuff.
Well, when we come back, we're gonna open some of this up and give you a chance to taste.
Thank you for always being the one who always keeps me on the ground. On the ground. When I stumble through this world, it's you.
So what we have here now is an art gallery of a lot of local artists that are from this area.
How you doing? I'm Pete.
Pete, good to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. Thanks for allowing us to come in here.
Yes, please.
And so you run the gallery and also do some of the work?
Yeah, that's some of my artwork there.
This stuff here?
That's pencil.
Wow, with pencil you did that.
If you could hear what these walls could say, if you could speak, building antebellum, pre-1860s. And this one was, I think, built in 1840, actually. So the different lives that's went through this door is interesting to me.
Tell me a little bit about your background, what brought you here and how long you've been involved in art.
Well, I'm actually self-taught. My father was in World War II in the Navy. My older brother was in the Navy. It was just something I felt that I wanted to do. I wanted to get out and see the world, and of course the Navy tells you that they show you the world. They didn't tell you 3/4 of it's water. I had a chance to sit down for a little bit. If I wasn't playing a chess game, then grab a pencil and set out and draw something. And
you must really appreciate this too. I mean, with that perspective, and then to be here and something that's got so much history that's been around that long.
Love this country, of course, and the background of this, the actual Civil War battle was here, and the men from both North and South that died here. I had a request from an artist from a couple hours west of here to let her know when we have a setting, so she could come over with her friends and sit down just so they could sit in this building and paint.
That's great.
So
I would imagine that's quite an experience. And appreciate your service in the Navy, by the way.
Well,
thank you very much for that.
Oh, thank you.
Me love. You give me love.
Back inside at Harvesters. It's sample time, my favorite part of the show. And we've got an assortment hand-picked by Jerry, who grew it, pickled it, preserved it, and now we're gonna serve it up and consume it. You said you want to start me off with some
We're going to start off with
juice.
some tomato juice. We grew hundreds of yellow tomatoes.
Wow.
It's going to have a great flavor.
I can already
You're gonna like it.
tell. This is good, wholesome stuff. I'm going in head first here. Man, is that delicious. That flavor is so pure and so clean.
And just the quality of the nutrition that would be in a home canned product like this is phenomenal.
Organically grown.
Radishes have a very short shelf life.
Do they grow pretty easy?
They do grow relatively easy. We have them a lot in salads and stuff, but we never think of the other things that you can do with a radish. So what we decided to do is to pickle them. It's a dill relish.
Wow, those are delicious. You're just experimenting with these?
We're just experimenting.
Dill, what else? What else are you putting in there?
So it's got the dill, the pickling,
Traditional pickling spice?
yeah, and vinegar. We're gonna try some pickled onions.
So you just eat the whole onion, huh?
Just the whole onion.
All right.
These are the onions that we use, the small yellow onions that are there. And I get them when they're a little bit smaller. All we do is we just pickle it. We add a little bay leaf to it.
Yeah, I see that bay leaf right on top.
There's some
little
red pepper
peppers
in there.
I'm liking this already. Man, is that good. Look, it's uncanny. The flavor, the texture.
And it still holds a lot of that traditional onion flavor.
So fresh, very, very fresh. Well, I got to thank you so much, Jerry, for the VIP tour here of Merchants Row and for all you're doing to help, really preserve this small town treasure.
You're welcome.
You're doing a great job. You got to be very proud.
I am.
Well, I know you got things to do. I want to work a little more on some of these samples here. I got a little more stuff to eat.
Good.
what joy are in our lives with all the pain of our past? And some of it's behind us now. Show us your hearts, won't you show yourself fast?
These beautiful rolling hills surrounding me are a postcard-perfect glimpse of our central Kentucky landscape. It's hard to believe, as peaceful it is out here right now, one of the bloodiest battles in Civil War history was held right here on these hallowed grounds. Perryville Battlefield today is a state park, and here to tell us more about it is Park Manager Kurt Holman. How you doing, Kurt?
Doing okay.
Good to see you, man. What's happening?
Well, it's basically a one-day battle. The reason the battle was fought here is it's not that the battle was going to be fought, but the water situation aided that it would be fought right here. Perryville itself had a pretty good water supply, and it was pretty defensible with all these rolling hills. It started about a mile or so that way when Union 3rd Corps came into the area. The Confederates thought they were the only ones, so they figured they'd attack them. And when they were getting ready to attack, 2 other Union Army Corps showed up. And it turned into a fight of 16,000 Confederates against about 60,000 Union troops. So
16 versus 60, not great odds.
No. But neither side knew what the other one was doing, and the Confederates actually got away with it. They did quite well. They concentrated their force on one of the small Union corps, beat it up pretty bad. But by that evening, and the sun went down, they figured out what they were really up against, and then they left. There were 7,600 casualties. Of course, that includes everything from killed, wounded, missing, captured, and about 2,500 of those actually lost their lives as a result of the battle, either immediately or died of wounds in the next few days or months. This kind of a modern gravel road behind you there is kind of where the Union line was of General Rousseau's, the right of General Rousseau's division. More specifically right here was the 5th Indiana Battery, commanded by Peter Simonson. They fired 755 rounds in the battle. When this position was overrun, they pulled back to that next hill right across the road there. And at one point, a Confederate shell blew up a limber box and it exploded threw one guy about 10 feet in the air and blew all his clothes off. And we have his diary. He survived and wrote about it. Right behind us, right behind that tree line is what we call the slaughter pen, where the 22nd Indiana took 65% casualties.
65%?
Yeah, 65% in about 10 minutes.
In 10 minutes?
Yeah.
So Kurt, tell me the significance of the area we're standing in right now.
There were six guns here. They initially were doing a long-range artillery duel about a mile away. You can see the property. We own it right next to that big tree over there.
And this is a Union cannon.
Yeah, Peter Simonson's Indiana Battery. We call this hill Loomis Heights because initially Loomis's Michigan Battery was here. This is a panel from the Travis Panorama. It shows this area. The bottom house is here, and it shows it there, and then the burning barn sat right over there. There were 2 regiments, Union regiments on the side, the 15th Kentucky and the 3rd Ohio, and they were fighting against 3 Confederate brigades. And a brigade is 4 or 5 regiments. The grass was on fire also. There was a fence over there on fire, and one Union soldier, he wrote later, he said that he was lying there helpless, wounded, as the fire was getting next to him, and as the Confederate line passed over, he said a Confederate officer who he never knew, never seen before, never saw again, dragged him away from the fire and then continued on.
With that intense of a battle and that many were dead, how did they handle the burials of the soldiers, and what records exist as to how that was taken care of?
They didn't really plan ahead of time. They didn't have dog tags or anything. The Union Army, of course the Confederates left, so the Union Army held the field, and each regiment sent details out and identified their own guys and buried them. The Confederates were pretty much left wherever they were, up to the burial of the local citizens, and the Union guys were taken real good care of by their own friends. There's about 20 names listed on the Confederate monument over there in the Confederate cemetery. Who knows how many are actually buried, maybe a couple hundred. And the rest of them are still out wherever they fell. this is the Confederate cemetery.
It's okay to walk through here. What's this?
These are the graves. One of them right here, about like that, all the way over, and another corresponding one just behind the monument.
When was the monument erected here? This is beautiful.
It was unveiled on October 8th, 1902, the 40th anniversary of the Battle of Perryville. There are about 20 or so names on it, which we assume were guys that Henry Bottom tried to identify, was able to identify. And then at the end it says there are 444 unknown heroes. And a lot of people assume that to be they're all buried here, but that just can't be the case.
Sure.
What that is that's just acknowledging all of the rest of the Confederate dead on the whole field.
On the battlefield itself.
But I don't think there can be more than a couple hundred buried in these pits. So like I said, over there, the rest of them are still out buried wherever they are.
And you do also have a museum on the grounds here as well?
Right over there, yep. We have exhibits, displays, artifacts. Currently we're working on an exhibit called The Hard Hand of War, which shows the effect of the battle on the civilian population, the medical. It's just so totally overwhelming. I mean, you're out there cutting your corn, you're doing your crops, it's a beautiful blue day, and 80,000 guys show up and fight a battle over your property, just destroy everything.
It's hard not to, you just feel the weight of everything that happened here. It's a beautiful landscape, but it's very moving and it's very humbling, you know.
Well, thank you for coming out and letting me gab about it.
And what joy are in our lives with all the pain of our past. And some of it's behind us now. Show us your hearts, won't you show yourself fast? And no one here can find us. And dance with me when the moon it is right. Start something here tonight. For you are the one that I've been waiting for. You are the one I have been waiting for. You are the one that I've been waiting for all of my life.
Still ahead on our journey through Danville, Kentucky.
There are about 10 summer stock theaters left in the country, and we are one of them.
In the beer world, they refer to a system of this size as a nano brewery.
Welcome to Mermaid.
Glad to be here as part of the whole Kentucky Crowd program.
Yes.
Down,